Hi everyone, I'm Kristan Hawkins, and welcome to a new and special episode of Explicitly Pro-Life Podcast. So I just wrapped up a very special live stream we did on Students for Life Action Facebook page. By the way, if you don't follow Students for Life Action, you really should. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But anyway, we released something this week called the Pro-Life Generation's Blueprint for a Post-Roe America. It's been a document I've been working on for a while. I was super excited to release it this week. It's a forward-looking document for the pro-life movement and for the pro-life generation. And we all know we've been accused at times of, if you've been in the pro-life movement, of really not caring about moms. You don't care about the women. You don't care about babies after they're born. All you do is you're fetus lovers. Well, yes, I am a fetus lover, but I'm also a lover of people. And so this blueprint is amazing because it kind of lays out in 6 simple steps what we are advocating for in the pro-life movement. So I hope you'll tune in. I just had a discussion with Charlotte Pence, the vice president's daughter. She's an amazing writer and documentary filmmaker. Christina Bennett, who was on my podcast in the first season. She was almost aborted. Christina is on the board of the National Black Pro-Life Coalition, works for the Family Policy Institute in Connecticut. Kelsey Hazzard's the founder of Secular Pro-Life, and Joshua Edmonds, he's the executive director of Georgia Lions for Life. What I love about this blueprint we released this week, if you go to Post-Roe-Blueprint.com, you can see all the signers. We have such a diverse group of people. We have Christians, atheists, liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, men, women. Everybody is represented in this document. And while we may have different policy prescriptions for how to get us to these points, we're all united in these 6 core principles. So give it a listen. I know you're going to love this discussion. Hey. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristan Hawkins, President of Students for Life Action. Thank you so much for joining us for this live virtual signing of the Pro-Life Generation's Blueprint for a Post-Roe America. I am so excited to share this with you today. We've been working on this for 6 months at Students for Life Action. Finally, a forward-looking document for our pro-life generation to really show America what it is that we strive to do and where we're going and where we see the future of America even after Roe v. Wade and Doe versus Bolton are reversed and sent back to the states. And now is a perfect time to be having this conversation, guys, because we are in the midst of a huge election year, and there are platforms and there's agendas and everyone's talking about what their vision for America is. And it's time for us, pro-life generation, to weigh in. And that means all of us, by the way, not just some of us, but all of us, Democrat, Republican, progressive, conservative, atheist, Christian, all of us should be united in these principles and these goals. And I'm super excited to share them with you today. Some of the signers, I'm going to be introducing them here in a second, but we have tons of signers. We want you to go to Post-Roe-Blueprint.com and sign your name. Abby Johnson, who'll be speaking tonight at the RNC. She's a signer. David Daleiden, founder of Center for Medical Progress. Sissy Graham Lynch from Samaritan's Purse. Teresa Bukoviak from Democrats for Life. Michael Knowles, Lila Rose, Lauren Green, McAfee, Cassie Dillon of the Lone Conservatives, Steve Ertel of Life News, Steve Mosher of Population Research Institute. There are a huge list. Oh, Ken Blackwell signed on. I'm just finding this out. New folks are signing on all the time, and I'm super excited to see all the folks. Alexandra Clark from Pop Politics at TPUSA has signed on. But today, I want to introduce you to 4 of my friends who've signed on that have joined us in this effort. First, I want to introduce to you Charlotte Pence Bond. Charlotte, you all will recognize. You'll see her sometimes getting off of an Air Force 2 plane, hanging out with her parents. She is a publisher. She had an excellent column actually yesterday in the Washington Times. You should check out. She's also a filmmaker, and there's going to be lots more coming from Charlotte in the next couple months. I'm really excited. So hopefully you follow her so you can stay up to date. Christina Bennett. Christina joins us from Connecticut. She's a member of the Black Pro-Life Coalition. She's a co-chair of Pro-Life Voices for Trump. She's a communications director for the Family Institute of Connecticut. She's also a mom, a foster mom. We're super excited to have Christina on. We may even hear her little baby in the background. Maybe we'll see. It won't be a pro-life podcast and web event without a pro-life, some pro-life babies or children interrupting us. Kelsey Hazzard's the founder of Secular Pro-Life. She is a graduate at the University of Miami. She's a lawyer down in Naples, Florida. I know she has a tough life living in Naples, Florida. It's a tough, tough life, Kelsey. And then Joshua Edmonds, you are a resident man. Thank you for bringing the diversity today, Joshua. He is the executive director of Georgia Alliance for Life. He knows firsthand, he's been a strategist for a number of politicos and politicians in the state of Georgia, knows firsthand just how important what we're talking about really is. And just before we go, I'm going to ask everybody to get ready, get your pens ready. If you've got your printed Post-Roe blueprint ready, we're going to sign it. But before we sign, I'm going to tell you what we're signing just real fast. There's 6 key principles, and I think all of us can agree on these principles. We might have different policy prescriptions about how to achieve them, especially the Republicans versus the Democrats, but we're all united as a pro-life generation on these principles. 1, reverse Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton. 2, curtail the expansion of the abortion industry. 3, promote adoption and foster care reform. 4, support pregnant and parenting women on campuses. 5, encourage family-friendly, work-friendly environments and employments. And 6, defund Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. So everyone, get your pens ready. We're going to do a virtual signing. We're going to sign our blueprint right now, and we want you all to join us. You can go to postroeblueprint.com and sign your name, add your name to this. We're super excited. This is the pen. I'm going to save this pen. It may look like an ordinary pen, but it's no longer a pen. So thank you guys for joining and signing today. I'm so excited to have you on for us to talk about why this is so, so important. I guess I want to start with you, Kelsey. Why do you think this is an important moment for the pro-life movement to kind of show unity? And despite maybe the diverse opinions we might hold on different strategies, but why is it so important for us right now to be coming together to talk about this?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking before this podcast got started that just a couple days ago, Rehumanize International and Americans United for Life put forward a plan for restorative justice after Roe v. Wade is reversed. And just a week or two before that, the Susan B. Anthony list put forward, I believe they're calling it the Pregnancy and Life Assistance Network, to bolster pregnancy support services, again, in anticipation of Roe's reversal. And now we have this wonderful comprehensive blueprint from Students for Life that encompasses the legislative and encompasses the pregnancy support and also all of the other things that you were talking about and that we're going to continue to discuss here today. And it's really one of those great minds think alike things. As you said, this is a time where people are thinking about visions for the future. And I think that you've put forward a particularly bold and exciting one. But seeing independently these different initiatives back to back to back, that tells me that this is a pivotal moment, that we as the pro-life generation are renewing our commitments, that we are not backing down, that we are on the same page as a movement, and that we have a plan not only to achieve victory, but to sustain it. And that's going to save countless lives. So thank you, Kristan, for your dedication and your hard work. I think the plan that we've put together really is something that, whatever your race or religion or background or political point of view, if you agree with the basic humanity of the unborn child, as we all do, that being our unifying force, these are principles that we can all agree on, that deserve our attention. So I am very, very pleased to endorse this effort.
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm really excited about it. This is like the single thought that, like, when I can't fall asleep at night and I start thinking about post-Roe America, that keeps me up, right? Of like, are we ready? We talk a lot about Roe being reversed and what it's going to look like, but there's a lot of things that we have to be ready. And and gaps we need to be filling now, because there's going to be a lot of women who are going to need our support. And the question is, do they have that support? Or do they have it, and do they have it but maybe not know about it, and maybe just need to know about it? And so I'm super, super excited to show America that, yes, this is how we care, and we do care, because, you know, we often hear, and Kelsey, I remember when you were a student not too long ago, we're about the same age, you know, you always get that question as a pro-lifer of, well, pro-lifers only care about the babies when they're in the womb.
Right, which is so untrue.
It was just so untrue. I'm like, have you ever met a pro-lifer ever? And so I feel like I just want to take this and just have it in my purse, like every time I go on campus next time, and be like, well, actually, let me read you section 3.2 right now, because it's so frustrating that we hear this over and over again, that pro-lifers only care about a child in the womb. We don't care about their mothers after they've given birth. We don't care about children. And it's so untrue. And I feel like if we all maybe just started from this premise and respected each other, and then went and had the policy disagreements, maybe our politics would be a little better in the United States of America. All right. So, Christina, you are wearing your special foster shirt, adopt, foster, mentor shirt. I love it. I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that we put, and we wanted to really make sure that was front and center of this blueprint, was about, you know, not just about being anti-abortion, but being pro-life, and what we need to do to create that culture of life. We had the honor this spring to kind of co-write a piece of legislation in the state of Virginia on foster care reform. And it was kind of a common sense thing. I think we ended up having like the NARAL candidate co-signed on to the event, and she didn't know we were involved. But it was really important. But it was hard to do, because a lot of people are going, well, you're like the pro-life group, like this isn't really your issue. And I'm like, no, that's kind of what we care about. Can you talk a little bit about why you feel that pro-lifers, why this is so important for us as pro-lifers to be speaking into the, you know, issues of adoption and foster care, and what we need to do?
Oh, absolutely. So as we all know, there are accusations that come against us as pro-lifers. And I think one of the most common accusations is that we don't care about children in foster care. If you're ever talking about abortion in a comment section online, one time I was just recently in front of an abortion clinic for 40 Days for Life, and I was praying, and this guy drove by and he screamed out the window, how many children have you adopted? And it's unfortunate that people use children that are in foster care or children that need to be adopted in a way to, you know, fight or accuse pro-lifers. But still, I think that there is a genuine desire in society for people to see pro-lifers stepping up and taking that action. It's so important, because we know that there's thousands and thousands of children who their parents have chosen life for them. Their parents have made the decision to give birth to them, but perhaps they struggled with, you know, drugs or addiction or emotional issues or mental health issues. And because of that, their children may have been temporarily taken from them, and maybe they're working to, you know, to get them back, to be reunified, or perhaps they've chosen to place their children up for adoption. And that's a very brave thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's something that we celebrate. It takes a lot of strength, especially living in a society where abortion on demand is available. It takes a lot of strength for a mother and a father to choose adoption. And so we affirm that decision, we celebrate that decision, and then we jump in and support by taking in children. I just recently became a foster mom, and I got placed with a baby boy in March. And I have to say that it's absolutely the best thing that I've ever done. And I've been in the pro-life movement around 17 years, I think. I started off doing prayer, and I've done politics. I've worked at a pregnancy center. Being a foster, you know, adoptive mom is the best. Nothing compares to baby giggles. Nothing compares to that. And it's also, you know, heart-wrenching to go through the training and to hear the stories of children that are being neglected, that are dealing with violence, that are born, you know, addicted to drugs. And there's often a stigma, especially when it comes to foster care, that, okay, we want to adopt, but not those kids. I remember once an abortion doctor said to me, I never forgot it. She was a Black abortion doctor. And I was praying outside of the clinic in my 20s. And she said to me, you and I both know that nobody wants these Black babies. Nobody will adopt them. And that was just so hard for me to hear her say that. And she said, I'm not killing these babies. I'm helping these mothers survive. So she had in her mind, she twisted and rationalized aborting Black children in other races, of course, but aborting children as a Black woman, as a doctor, because she thought nobody wants Black babies. And because maybe she hadn't seen a lot of people adopting them. And so I think that we can be the answer, and that we should be the answer to this cry in people's hearts to see justice for children, to see them safe, to see them in forever families, to see them welcomed into homes. And our message as pro-lifers is that every life is valuable from the womb to the tomb, and that no matter what circumstances that you were born into, your life has value and worth. And I think this is the perfect way for us to show that, regardless if you were born into a situation where there's abuse or trauma or whatever else, your life is valuable, your life is important, you're wanted, and we want to take the action to welcome you into our homes. And I think as we do that more and more, there's going to be a revolution, and we will be known by our love and compassion.
That's awesome. Mic drop. Done. We're done. No. I don't think we need to say more. It was interesting when you were talking, Christina. I was thinking, you were talking about how you got started in the pro-life movement and praying. You were in Georgia for a time, right?
I was with Josh. Yep.
Yes, that's right. So
we
I was
did
like,
some stuff together.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a decade, over a decade.
A long time. Yeah, I remember meeting in the prayer room at IHOP here in Lawrenceville, Georgia, strategizing to do a pro-life prayer ministry on a local college campus when I was a student. It's funny how things happen this way. All the families back together, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the pro-life movement. So Joshua, what do you? I think a lot of times, especially members of the pro-life gen, kind of view politics as dirty. Yeah. As you're going to get disappointed, you're going to have to compromise your beliefs. Maybe, I'm going to be asked to vote for somebody I really don't like. Personnel, politics over personnel is what I say. Like, who cares if you don't like the person? Just vote for the candidate who's going to get the job done. But I think it's difficult. I think a lot of people kind of struggle with it. And a lot of folks will say, well, see, anytime there's a disappointment, they'll say, well, this is why it doesn't matter who you vote for. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? So can you maybe speak into that a little bit about, why is politics so important? Like, maybe talk a little bit about what you guys are accomplishing there in Georgia and what you're striving towards. Because when you look at what's been going on in the States, especially, you can see you may not like politics, but politics matters.
Yeah. Something we see a lot, especially here in the Deep South, is that politicians view abortion and the pro-life issue as a religious issue, and the churches view it as a political issue. And all the while, no one gets anything done because everyone's pointing the finger like, well, it's their job, not ours. And in reality, William Wilberforce said that politics is inextricably downstream from culture. That as you reform your culture to be a pro-life culture on our college campuses and in our, in our pulpits every Sunday morning, it has to inevitably impact our politics and how we act in the ballot box. And at the end of the day, while we're looking at how to bring wraparound services in for low-income at-risk women, and we're looking at how to promote adoption and foster care, and how we're trying to get the church more engaged. Those are community elements that are necessary for us to exist in a post-Roe America, but they have incredibly powerful political elements to them as well. Here in Georgia, just this year, we passed several really powerful pro-life efforts that were reforming foster and adoption care. They were fighting sex trafficking. They were expanding pregnancy Medicaid for low-income women and expanding it from 2 months to 6 months and including lactation as part of pregnancy Medicaid services. We were mandating reasonable accommodations for lactating moms in the workplace. Last year, we had our heartbeat bill, but at the same time, we also banned shackling pregnant inmates in Georgia. And all of those elements that are arguably very pro-life, they exist in the political realm many times before they can exist in the community. So if we're looking forward in what it looks like to be in a post-Roe America, post-Roe Georgia for us, we have to think about what political component exists to that we can take advantage of now, especially when we're in a hotly contested election year. What can we do to ensure that we're taking advantage of our pro-life elected officials to move the ball forward on the life issue, and B, protecting the advances that we've made. We were talking before the live stream started earlier about how Georgia, it's a census year, and most people think that's just an inconvenience. But the reality is that after every census, the states redistrict their legislative seats and congressional seats. And whoever is in control of the state legislature determines whether or not seats are going to be red or blue in many regards in our metro areas in 2022 and onward. So if we lose control of our state house, regardless of if we pass a heartbeat bill or not, we'll lose pro-life efforts for a decade here in Georgia until there's another census, because the pro-abortion majority will be in control of our state legislature. And so being engaged with your elected officials and tapping into these post-Roe concepts that we're developing on the state level with foster and adoption reform, sex trafficking, medical ethics, and motherhood support. Anyone who has a pregnancy center they work with that takes advantage of a state grant program, that's legislated. If you've got pro-abortion majorities in your state, your centers can't take advantage of a state grant program to expand medical services to reach more women to save more babies. That's a politically based community program. So we have to take advantage of the politics, and we have to engage in our elections to make sure that even if there's candidates we don't particularly care for, that if they're moving the ball forward on the life issue, we're getting involved. Everyone talks about Georgia politics and thinks of the heartbeat bill. We've got members of our legislature who voted no on the heartbeat bill, but carried adoption and foster legislation, who carried the ban on shackling pregnant inmates, who carried our baby box bill this year, but they voted no on the heartbeat bill. Politics makes strange bedfellows, and when we're talking about saving lives, you got to leave personalities out of it as best you can, because we have a goal to accomplish. And that's what I try to bring to the table when we're talking with our churches, with our student groups, and with folks who feel like they've maybe been burnt out on politics a little bit. It's not about feeling happy. It's about getting the job done. If you don't accomplish your political and community goals, then you're really just complaining on social media. And, we have very little time for that right now. So.
You're muted, Kristan.
Sorry, it's raining here. I muted myself to make sure you didn't hear my thunderstorm. I was just saying, it's like suck it up, Buttercup. When I hear people kind of complain about, oh, we got burned this time, or, we were promised to get a pro-life justice here and they betrayed us, and why should I care? I'm like, well, if you go away, what's going to happen? Like, you have to stay involved. And yes, there's absolutely going to be bitter disappointments, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, but it doesn't mean we have to stop our work. And it doesn't mean that what we're doing is wrong, or that we should completely alienate ourselves. So I think that's really important. I think that was what, I know this blueprint's very political, because it talks about, appointing pro-life judges. It talks about passing laws, but it connects with the non-political, because it's actually one movement. So Charlotte, now that we're talking about politics and appointing pro-life judges, we've been making the case at Students for Life, vote pro-life first. That we know there's a lot of issues out there, and there are very important issues, but nothing takes more lives every single day than abortion. Nothing ends more lives, and this should be the issue when you're trying to decide if you've got candidates that they actually line up on all the issues. You've got to pick the candidate who's right on abortion. We had some questions come in during this over text message. And one of the questions that we actually got in was, well, why should I vote pro-life first? What about the other issues? Do you want to address that question?
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, thanks for having me on here. This is really fun. I think, honestly, it goes back to kind of what Josh was saying about it affecting culture and kind of coming down from culture, because honestly, being pro-life is something that I think is going to start in the culture and has to kind of be there and trickle into politics. But it's kind of a two-way street, right? You have to also be active in the political realm too, because obviously the politics affects the culture and affects kind of people making allowances for it and saying, well, in this case, it's okay, or in this, or, it ultimately helps these communities when actually we know it doesn't really now, because we've been around. Roe v. Wade was a while ago. We've been able to see how it's affected our communities and it affected people on a personal level, obviously, for years and their entire lives. So I think that that's where you have to go to it, is not necessarily saying, oh, I'm definitely going to be only for a certain kind of candidate or only for a certain kind of party. Because I think really the Democratic Party is moving so far on the radical side of abortion. And I mean, polls will show you that most people actually don't fall on like one of the radical sides. They're really kind of in the middle. They're like, I'm not sure. I don't feel comfortable with it all the time. And that's okay. And that can be reflected in politics too, I think. You don't have to be, diehard Republican or diehard Democrat and be pro-life or pro-choice. You can kind of be in the middle. And right now, I feel like the Democratic Party, we're not seeing that as much. We're not seeing as many pro-life Democrats, but I think that they're out there, and I know them personally, and I think that them standing up and saying like, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm also pro-life is going to be something that's going to really impact the culture for the better.
That's right. Absolutely. There are Democrats who are pro-life. At Students for Life Action this summer, we had student interns all summer door knocking in like 110-degree weather with masks on. It was terrible. I feel so bad. We were sending them gift cards left and right, being like, thank you so much. But we were out there in Arizona. We were out there. Dan Lipinski, it was right before COVID in Illinois. I think it snowed and it was COVID. Really trying to help some of these pro-life Democrats. We went to New Mexico. And it's sad because in both of the races we engaged on with pro-life Democrats, all three of them we've lost. We were the only group that kind of came in and were door knocking for these pro-life Democrats, and NARAL, Planned Parenthood, and their own party was actually running against them in the primary simply because they were Democrat and pro-life, and that they dared to do that. And I think we need more state legislators. I believe, Josh, there was a state legislator from your state last night at the RNC who was a Democrat, right?
Yeah. Vernon Jones has been he's a pro-Trump Democrat here in Georgia, has made lots of waves. We actually had a chance to meet with him over the summer talking about the life issue. And, we had a member of the Democrat caucus who voted for the heartbeat bill last year, a pastor from Middle Georgia named Mac Jackson, who won his primary this year despite hundreds of thousands of dollars in attacks from Stacey Abrams supporters. For every pro-abortion Republican we lament, there's a pro-life Democrat hiding, ready to be supported by nonpartisan pro-life groups. And so it's awesome to see folks like that coming out of the woodwork.
Those are really my funnest races, is when we get involved with a pro-life Democrat or against a pro-abortion Republican. That makes me happy. I get excited about that. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Charlotte's like, oh, I didn't hear that. All right. So, why do you guys think, and I guess anyone can kind of pitch in, why do you guys think this election is going to be so important? We have, if you haven't signed up to make calls or knock on doors, go to voteprobablyfirst.com right now and sign up, please. But why do you guys think this election is so important? Because I know I've heard, like, you always say, Kristan, this is the most important election of our lifetime. But I'm like, no, this really, really is. So why do you guys think this is such an important election? Don't jump in.
Not political again, but when you look at the things that have been moving in our states over the past couple of years, I mean, you've got Georgia's heartbeat bill. There's a prenatal non-discrimination act in Indiana, both pending to get up to the Supreme Court, eager for Supreme Court review, and arguably one more justice who constitutionally agrees that the right to life is an inalienable right. And you could see Roe v. Wade by the wayside in the next 4 years. I mean, you've got so many cases where states are hanging in the balance right ahead of redistricting. And even if Roe gets thrown out by the Supreme Court, it's not going to be like with other issues where they make abortion illegal in America. They'll turn it back over to the states. Right. And it means that here in our state legislatures, we have to redouble our efforts to make sure that when Roe does go, and it will, no one will argue that it's not going to. When it does, that our states are politically ready to do what's necessary to protect life without the storm cloud of Roe hanging over our heads. And all of that really is, I mean, if we can't deliver our state houses in 2020 and we are forced to a decade of pro-abortion majorities in purple swing states, but Roe goes in 4 years from now, I mean, the advances they can make to entrench abortion at the state level will be, back to square one for many of our states. So this election really is all the stars aligning politically speaking, so that we can be prepared to win in the community once Roe inevitably does go by the wayside.
Anyone else want to jump in? Christina?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say that I'm not speaking on behalf of Family Institute because they're bipartisan, although we do have Family Institute action, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself and pro-life Voices for Trump too. But elections have consequences, and we know that. And the two things that I want to share is one, that when I started in the pro-life movement, I was, 20 something years old, and I moved to Washington, D.C. God literally called me to leave my family, leave my friends. I didn't grow up in a pro-life family. I'd never heard abortion talked about in church or at home. And I moved to DC to pray in front of the Supreme Court with red life tape over my mouth and to pray for pro-life justices. And we've seen some great movement, and we have had judges appointed that are pro-life, and that's awesome. But there's more to come. We need another judge. So for me, that is like priority. I mean, my focus is on the court because I spent years of my life praying for pro-life Supreme Court justices to overturn Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton, and we've gained ground and we can't turn back. So that's one reason. And the second thing is that when I say elections have consequences, even on the state level. So I live in Connecticut. It's a very pro-abortion state. We don't even have parental notification laws for abortion. So teenagers, they have to tell their parents and get permission to get a tattoo, to go tanning, to get their ears pierced, but not to have a surgical or a medical abortion. And they're trying to shut the pregnancy resource centers down. They're trying to pass false legislation accusing them of, harassing women. And if you pay attention to politics, you'll know that, this past year, I think it was last year, there was a Supreme Court case, NIFLA versus Becerra, that had to do with California pregnancy centers that were being pressured to give out information on abortion. So women were coming in and they had to tell women where they could go to get a low-cost abortion. And they were being made to do that. And the case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And thankfully, because of the two justices that President Trump put on the Supreme Court, that got knocked down. And that had consequences for Connecticut. Those things trickled down because when our governor and our state senators and legislators are looking at the Supreme Court and they see, oh, okay, because of these justices, because of these conservative justices, they're voting to support the pregnancy center. That causes the people in our state who are so aggressive to back down a little bit and to realize, okay, if we were to attack pregnancy centers and we were to take it there, it could go to the Supreme Court and we could lose as well. And so I know that, Joshua's in a different situation. He's living in the South. I'm living in Connecticut. It's a whole nother world here. And so whatever happens on a national level, it makes a big deal on a local level as well. And so this election is crucial. And you know what? I'll just throw in a third thing, the Hyde Amendment. We just cannot afford to lose the Hyde Amendment. And I think maybe Kelsey will talk about that. So, because I know she has a lot to say about the Hyde Amendment. So I'll just leave it there, but we can't afford to lose the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah, Kelsey, do you want to talk about the Hyde Amendment?
I'm happy to talk about the Hyde Amendment.
It's crazy. I mean, this is like abortion extremism on display, what we're seeing right now from the Democratic Party. Can you explain to everyone what the Hyde Amendment is and just how big a deal it is for the DNC now to officially say in their platform that they believe taxpayers should be funding abortions?
Right. So the Hyde Amendment, for those listeners who may not know, is a budget rider on the federal level. So every year you have a federal budget, and this is a rider that is annually attached. It's not its own law, but it has been attached to the budget consistently every year since 1976. And what it does is it is a limitation on taxpayer funding of abortions through the Medicaid program. It's not perfect. It doesn't protect babies conceived in rape, but it does prevent taxpayer funding of abortion in a multitude of cases. And the Charlotte Institute has done some fantastic research. Dr. Michael New has determined that over the 40-some years that the Hyde Amendment has been in place, over 2 million lives have been saved from abortion just from the Hyde Amendment. If you were born through the Medicaid program during that time frame, there's a 1 in 9 chance that the Hyde Amendment saved your life. We are talking about a ton of people. It's not normally good form to run on a platform that says a lot of your prospective voters should be dead. That's not usually good politics, but somehow the Democrats decided that would be good politics, I guess because so many of those people are too young to vote. That's where they're going with that. But yeah, the Hyde Amendment is something, as I said, it's a federal budget writer, and federal budgets originate in the House of Representatives. That's sort of your Civics 101 power of the purse coming out of the House of Representatives. So a pro-abortion majority in the House is going to be itching to take that budget writer out, and that could have some catastrophic consequences. While I'm on the subject though of elections generally, and again, like Christina said, her organization and mine, nonpartisan, Secular Pro-Life's nonpartisan. I just want to make sure people don't lose sight. There's so much attention on the Supreme Court and the president and the big flashy national level things. There are also a lot of referenda that you can be voting on. Look at what's being voted upon in yours, beyond candidates. There are opportunities for you, like just directly to vote for or against abortion related legislation on the ballot. And the key example, or at least the one that I'm most aware of right now, is in Colorado. They have a referendum on the 2020 ballot to ban late-term abortions. And Colorado is one of those extreme states that has no gestational limits at all. Like even Roe and Doe suggest that, okay, states can ban some abortions in the third trimester, but Colorado never did. And it's become a destination for these horrific, basically infanticide level abortions of babies who could survive if given the chance. So that is on the ballot in Colorado, and definitely just look into what's going on in your area. You can get a sample ballot from your local commissioner of elections in advance so that you can see everything that's available for you to vote on.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. If you think about the Rocky Mountain area and New Mexico and Colorado, they're literally the late-term abortion capital of the world. And so often abortion advocates say that these abortions don't happen, but they do.
They absolutely do.
David Daleiden and Center for Medical Progress just yesterday released a montage video of depositions with the Planned Parenthood directors that he undercover filmed, sitting next to their lawyers, his lawyer asking them, are these videos true? Yes. Having them, reiterate what was said in the video. And it's out. Like, they are admitting they're birthing children alive because they need the hearts to continue to beat while they harvest the organs from the children, because Stanford needs the freshest organs for their fetal research program. I mean, like, this is happening in the United States of America. So next time someone tries to tell you, oh, late-term abortion, that's just a scare tactic of the Republicans, they're lying, that doesn't actually happen. No, it actually happens. And we have sworn depositions of Planned Parenthood's own directors talking about, yeah, sometimes the hearts are still beating as they're being extracted.
Yeah.
This is happening to babies in our country.
This is probably a good time to talk about Senator Harris's former position as the Attorney General of California, where she, rather than going after Planned Parenthood, went after the person who exposed Planned Parenthood and sent armed law enforcement into his home.
That's
that is terrifying to me. I mean, it's not like any of Biden's VP shortlist were pro-life or anything like that, but I think Harris takes it a step further by squashing not only the rights of children, but the rights of those of us who would stand up for the children.
That's right. I mean, she sent armed police officers into David Deleiden's home to confiscate his undercover work, while we know she was colluding with Planned Parenthood as Attorney General and receiving funds from them to run as for U.S. Senate. I mean, this is unbelievable. I guess, Charlotte, let's wrap this up a little bit. What do you think are most important steps for the pro-life generation now, leading up into the election and then after the election, regardless of who wins?
Honestly, I think talking about this a lot with, our friends and family members and people that I mean, this is not a fun issue to talk about. I mean, it's really sad, first of all, obviously, but then it's just uncomfortable for people because there's a sense of judgment, of judging mothers who are in this situation and don't know what to do. But I think that it's really coming from a place of love. It has been something that the pro-life movement's done really well, I think, in the last couple years, honestly, and doing a huge push, especially the March for Life, about pro-life being pro-woman. I think that's really important. I think talking about that, getting that message out, is just really crucial. And I think it totally ties into this blueprint, because this is a way to kind of say, you know, we're not going to forget about the babies that are born. We're not going to forget about the mothers that end up, you know, having children and don't feel prepared for it. Because there's so many amazing, beautiful success stories already of people who find, you know, these housing centers, or if they find just support through the pro-life movement. And I think, you know, when I've talked to people who have either had an abortion or had considered having an abortion, they've told me a lot of times, you know, the thing that I was the most surprised by was that there are so many resources. There were so many people who wanted to help me, you know, didn't even know me, who were in the pro-life movement, that they thought, you know, they would just judge me, they wouldn't care. And it was actually the opposite, where they went to abortion clinics and they were kind of you know, treated in a way where they didn't really feel valued. They didn't really feel like they were respected or like they were cared for, and definitely not followed up with later. And so I think that, you know, I think just promoting that message of we do care about the woman and the man that are affected by abortion is going to be really vital to just keep going, even after the election. Just keep that momentum is going to be, no matter what happens in November, the thing that kind of carries through to overturn Roe v. Wade in the future, I think.
Absolutely. And if you want, and if you haven't done it already, I would encourage you to sign on this platform. Then you can do what I did and print it out and have it with you. Next time someone says, well, you don't really care, I'd be like, no, actually I do. Look, my name's right there. The 6 key principles are: reverse Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton, curtail the expansion of the abortion industry, promote adoption and foster care reform, support pregnant parenting students on campus, encourage family-friendly, work-friendly employment, and defund Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. And yes, some questions came in. Are you going to take this to politicians? Bringing back my Minnesotan? Yes, you betcha. We will be going to politicians with this. There will be a congressional scorecard that Students for Life Action will be releasing, using this really as a blueprint for how we really want to see politicians standing up for life. And so I want to thank you all for getting on today. If you all go and sign, if you go to postroeblueprint.com, sign it, and you'll actually see Charlotte, Kelsey, Josh's, and Christina's name, and you can click their name, and I hyperlinked it, I think, to everyone's Instagram feeds. I got a little text there with the hyperlink. So you can follow all of them and stay up to date with what they and their organizations are doing. And if you haven't signed up to volunteer yet, you can make phone calls to educate voters, telling them why you vote pro-life first, and we'll give you a script. It's super easy. We'll train you. You can do it from your home. Go to voteprolifefirst.com right now. Sign up to join our call squad. We're also doing door knocking, and we'll be doing it for state legislative races like Josh talked about, and the federal races. I know Charlotte's been very, very busy because there's like a big election, and her dad's job's keeping her very busy right now. So there's a lot we can be talking about with our neighbors and our friends and everyone that we basically come in contact with between now and election day, and talking about voting pro-life first. So thank you all for tuning in, and thank you guys for joining me today and signing. And keep this pen because you're going to want to remember it one day. Bye, guys.